this is Angela at beginninggenealogist.com. Hope you're having a good day today. Have you ever had a challenge in locating the family? I'm referring to the efforts that many people make. We all have this experience of looking for someone or a group of people in the census, and for whatever reason, we just can't find them. Well, sometimes there are many reasons for that. And let's take a look at what sometimes they can be. I always recommend that when you get to that situation, you reach that challenge, you reach that block, you can't locate them. Think of three things: name, location, and people. By name, we know that spelling doesn't count when it comes to looking at individuals. In other words, we should be very, very flexible with looking at the way names are spelled, whether it's a last name that's spelled perhaps differently from what we may think it should be. And sometimes it can just be written down incorrectly. But we know that we have to be flexible to a certain degree, and that's why utilizing something such as a wildcard search on Ancestry.com can really be helpful to be able to find those variations in spelling. And if you've not become familiar with the website gotgenealogy.com, I encourage that you take a look at it. It's one that Lisa Lee, who's very well versed in genealogy and methodology, she has put together a wonderful video on how to use a wildcard search on Ancestry.com. So I recommend that you take a look at it. But beyond that, looking at names, sometimes names are just recorded incorrectly or recorded differently. I know that I've seen ancestors who've had their names documented several different ways. I have an ancestor whose his given names were Lewis Mitchell, and the person appeared in one of the census records as L. Mitchell Bass, and Mitchell was not spelled with a T. It was M-I-C-H-E-A-L, so that was something that was written differently, and the initial was written for his first name. Another year this person appeared as L. M. Bass, another year as Mitchell, so it can vary in terms of how it is written, so one must become flexible in terms of how one looks at it. But also there are situations where you'll find an enumerator wrote everyone's name with initials and no given names. That can be a reason why. So when you have exhausted all possibilities, you know the family always lived in that same community, then you may want to just do a line-by-line search and see if your ancestors fell on one of those pages where all individuals were listed by initials and not by name. And then of course there's the possibility that individuals don't appear or they're hard to find because they have been indexed incorrectly. I can give an example of a gentleman I was looking for and who eventually was there all along in the records. But in the index that came up, even on Ancestry, the person whose first name was Caesar. Well, I guess perhaps the person who was making the index at Ancestry had been doing a lot of work and was perhaps a bit fatigued. And the person looked at the name and they wrote it the way they saw it. And what they saw was Cassan, C-A-S-S-A-N. Well, when I finally did find the person's name, I guess if I looked at it, I might say it was Cassan, but at the same time I could easily tell that the word was Caesar. So sometimes it's human error and indexing error that can sometimes be the reason why your ancestors not coming up when you're just looking on a site that has digitized a lot of records. Keeping in mind also that the indexes that you utilize on a site that digitizes records oftentimes is very, very different from the sound indexing system that many of us will use when we go to the National Archives and use the Soundex cards. So it is important to understand that. Another reason why you can't find your family might be location. You may have heard that the family lived, I know for example I've researched a family that lived in West Point, Mississippi. That's all that was ever said. That's all that was ever remembered by the individuals who are now the elders in the family. Well, I did find them in 1930 and in 1920. But before that, they were nowhere near West Point, Mississippi, which is in Clay County. They were in a small community in Noxubee County, 2 counties away. So sometimes you're looking at information and the individuals that you're seeking are appearing in a different place. Now, the people themselves. It's very important sometimes to not be so stressed over finding the family the way you know their name to be today, but to look for the individuals. In most cases, the given name is going to be the static part. That is going to be pretty much the same. Yes, Amanda might appear as Mandy in one particular year, or it's very, very possible that Hattie is really Harriet in another year. But you know sometimes that those anomalies can take place. But it is important to look for the people, which sometimes means discard the surname and look for the individuals. And when particularly you're looking for a family of individuals, and you know all these individuals were also probably in the same community and in the previous census year, and everyone was older than 10 years old, so they certainly should be in the census a previous year, then by all means look for the people. And sometimes those relationships can also change. You may think of a particular individual as the head of the house, but 2 census years earlier, which is a span of 20 years, that person could have been a lodger or a boarder. That person could have been a son or daughter living with parents who were still the head of the family, the matriarch or the patriarch of the family. So again, keep in mind the names can change in terms of spelling. The location might be someplace else, or the people might be there, perhaps with a different surname, or perhaps the relationship in terms of their placement in the family might be different. They may no longer be in a situation where there is a pure parent-child. It may be a landlady, landlord with tenants, or who has a lodger in the household instead. So all of these things have to be remembered when you're looking for those elusive ancestors. All of this will hopefully help you tell that family story. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.